man with an untrusting attitude. He was mute, but very expressive and protective of his employer's interests. Marguerite was happy to spot him sleeping in the rocking chair before the waning fire in the parlor. She hurried to the front door, quietly lifted the latch, and stepped outside. The bracing cold chilled her, but Marguerite did not let the frosty air deter her. Her heart raced as she stepped lightly down the front porch steps and hurried to a copse of trees between the house and the fort gate. She hugged the slender pine as she cast a watchful eye toward the upper walkway. The watchmen here at the fort were lazy and lacked to drink come evening time. She and Elizabeth often indulged in an evening walk. Elizabeth's mother, Bettina, believed it was good for their constitution, whatever that might be. The girls often traveled around the fort's parapet and rarely saw a watchman. Tensions had eased after a strong treaty with the Alabama tribe was established. There were no other threats in this area, except for the biting mosquitoes that could sometimes make one sick. Sprinting to the gate now, she slid the bolt open with cold, achy fingers. Without pausing, she stepped outside to freedom. She thought she heard someone calling her name, but after waiting a few seconds and hearing nothing else, she didn't look back. Marguerite decided she needed to move fast if she was going to see the magical blue lights before they disappeared. While the moon was not full tonight, the half-moon above grew brighter by the second, and even a lazy sentry would spot her in her white dress and bright red shawl if she wasn't careful. Marguerite hadn't gotten far into the meadow before she heard a rustling in front of her. She breathed a sigh of relief when a fat brown rabbit hopped out of the thick grass and then bounced away from her. She must have startled him. "Not as much as you startled me," she thought. Marguerite hurried on her way. The light should be ahead of her soon. She had to see those blue lights up close. Who had ever heard of such a thing? "Marguerite! Wait!" It was Elizabeth. Somehow she'd heard Marguerite leave and followed her out of the fort. Stupid Elizabeth. If she insisted on yelling, she would wake up half the fort. Marguerite didn't acknowledge her, and she certainly wasn't going to wait for her. She ran faster. Her untied boots tried to slip off her feet a few times, but she pressed on and managed to outrun Elizabeth significantly. As she always did. Elizabeth wasn't strong at all. And then Marguerite heard the singing again. A woman's voice, laughing and singing. But the language she did not know. Could it be French? Spanish? It was certainly not the Alabama language. She'd heard the natives speak many times, and their language was not smooth and flowing like this one. The Alabama language was difficult to follow, although Marguerite had the basic words or phrases down. In fact, she'd mastered the language so well that Bettina Beausarge often sent her to make the monthly trades when the Alabama came with fresh deer or wild boar meat. It wasn't seemly that either Elizabeth or Bettina should engage in such activities. Mrs. Beausarge held a fierce distrust of the Alabama, but not so much that she didn't desire their furs and the wild boar meat they sometimes bartered. Marguerite flushed, thinking of the time she'd first met Chabola Bula, the most handsome young man in the Alabama tribe. They'd only spoken a few times during trading sessions, but he had made quite an impression on her. She couldn't be sure of his age, and had no idea how to pose such a question. But her heart always skipped a beat when she saw him in the square. The Alabama had no qualms about trading with women, and Chabola Bula was always fair and friendly. He had the shiniest black hair she'd ever seen, shinier than even her own. He'd brushed her hand once, and her skin had burned for hours afterward. Elizabeth had caught her rubbing at the spot and elbowed her in the side with a cautious smile. Elizabeth had whispered, "Anything between you two would be impossible." It was pointless to argue with her, and that would only reveal more of Marguerite's true feelings.